I hadn't been in that office since Grandpa Merrick started fading. I only came today because I promised him I would. The conference room smelled like lemon polish and old paper, the kind of scent that sticks to wood and secrets. My mother adjusted her pearls with a practiced hand. My father sat stiff, arms crossed like he expected a fight. And Kalia, perfect as ever, wore a spotless cream blouse and a half smile that said she'd already won. Mr. Halpern, Grandpa's lawyer for more than 30 years, cleared his throat and opened a folder with slow, steady movements. "We're here to honor the final wishes of Merrick Wynne," he said. His voice didn't shake. He looked at me briefly and then began reading. "To Kalia Wynne, the cabin in Jackson Hole and the vintage 1959 Gibson guitar." Kalia blinked, clearly expecting more. "To Everett and Letta Wynne, the heirloom grandfather clock, select vinyl records, and a $10,000 charitable gift made in your names." My mother let out a sound between a scoff and a gag. "That can't be right." Mr. Halpern didn't flinch. He turned a page. "To Serafina Wynne, my granddaughter, my confidant, he leaves his entire financial estate totaling $38,246,000. The room went silent. "Then what?" my father barked. Kalia's jaw tightened. My mother stood, face flushed. "She abandoned us. She doesn't deserve—" Mr. Halpern kept going. "This will was signed, notarized, and filed by Merrick Wynne 3 months before his passing." They didn't hear the rest. My father lunged, grabbed the check Mr. Halpern had handed me, and held it up like a fake. "You think this buys you back in?" Before I could speak, he struck a match. The check curled and blackened, fire eating the edge. My mother tore the envelope I'd been holding, ripping Grandpa's handwriting to pieces. "This is what happens when you betray your family," she hissed. I didn't move. I didn't beg. I smiled, not with my eyes, just enough to keep steady. Because what they burned wasn't what they thought, and they never noticed the envelope still tucked inside my coat. The last time my father and I spoke like father and daughter, he said, "If you walk out that door, you don't walk back in." I was 19. I'd turned down a full ride to his alma mater's business program and enrolled at a small college upstate to study visual design. He called it a hobby with delusions. My mother didn't argue. She stood behind him with her mouth pressed thin. 3 weeks later, I came home for Thanksgiving and found my bedroom stripped bare. The desk, the bed, the bookshelf where Grandpa used to hide notes between the pages, all gone. In their place, 2 gray armchairs, a fake orchid, a framed lighthouse I'd never seen. The door plate had been changed from Serafina to guest room A. Kalia brushed past me in the hallway and laughed. "Don't be so dramatic. It's not like you used it. They didn't cut me off in one swing. First it was little things, missed birthdays, calls that never got returned. Then the rent check my parents sent every month just didn't come. When I called, my mother sighed. Actions have consequences, Sarah. You wanted independence. Now you have it." I would have lost the apartment if Grandpa hadn't stepped in. He wired the exact amount 2 days later. No lecture, no questions. After that, small deposits showed up in a quiet rhythm. Not too much, never flashy, just enough to keep the heat on and the lights steady. With them came letters in his careful, shaky script. He never scolded me for leaving. He never asked me to return. But each line carried something stronger. He saw me. The last letter came 3 weeks before he died. It said only, "Survival isn't weakness. It's the first proof of strength." I slipped that letter into my wallet. I kept it through every rejection, every silent holiday, every evening I pretended not to care. I still had it in my pocket as the ashes of the fake check cooled on the table, and my hand slid into my coat to touch the real envelope waiting there. The first thing I did when I got home was lock the door and kick off my heels. My legs trembled, not from fear, but from holding it together too long. I set my coat over a chair and pulled out the envelope Grandpa had given me a month before he passed. He'd handed it to me in a booth at Hillstone Diner, wrapped in a cloth napkin like it was a relic. "Don't open it," he said, "unless they burn it." And they had. I broke the wax seal and unfolded the contents slowly. A single check, nearly identical to the one they'd turned to Ash hours earlier. Same number, same signature, except this one had tiny red letters, non-negotiable copy. My hands didn't shake. I flipped it over. Taped to the back was a small USB drive and a note in Grandpa's blocky writing. Let them burn it, then open the real file. I plugged it in. No splash screen, no password, just a folder labeled Inheritance. Inside was a PDF. Trust transfer form. Signed, witnessed, filed by a firm I didn't recognize. The account number ended with digits I knew by heart. Grandpa's birthday, backward. The funds were real. The transfer had happened. Weeks ago. The check they torched wasn't only a decoy, it was bait. I leaned back. The quiet in my apartment felt heavy and soft, like velvet. This wasn't about them anymore. It hadn't been for a long time. Grandpa hadn't only trusted me. He had planned for their reaction, step by step, and now I would too. The next morning, I tried to check my balance. Habit, reassurance. The screen blinked, then an error popped up. Account not found. I tried another card. Declined. I typed slower, like accuracy could fix it. Nothing. Maybe a security lock, I told myself. Maybe a fraud flag after yesterday. I called the bank. The man on the phone sounded uneasy. I'm sorry, Miss Wynn, he said, fingers tapping keys I couldn't see. Our system lists your account as inactive. He paused. Deceased. Actually. My mouth went dry. That's a mistake? Another pause. It was certified by the registrar's office, dated 2 weeks ago. I hung up before my voice cracked. The DMV confirmed it an hour later. The woman behind the glass squinted at her monitor and frowned. You're flagged as legally deceased, she said. Death certificate filed under your full name, Serafina Lete Wynn. Her tone was flat, but her eyes were kind. You'll need to file a correction. It can take months. I didn't answer. I walked out into the cold, stunned, like the world's edges had been peeled back and everything solid could vanish. Across the street, a woman stood still beneath bare-branched trees. Her sunglasses were too big for the gray sky. A pale blue silk scarf was looped once around her neck, the same one my mother said the dry cleaner had lost 3 years ago. She didn't smile. She didn't look away. She was watching. I slipped into the stream of people and moved, not fast, but with purpose. When I turned the corner, she was gone. Back at my place, I pulled open the drawer where I kept Grandpa's letters and set them out in a line. I hadn't just been cut out. I was being erased, carefully, quietly, completely, and someone was making sure it stuck. I opened my laptop, took the USB from its case, and stared at the folder Grandpa had named Inheritance. Somewhere inside was the next step. A small brass key had been resting in my nightstand for years, wrapped in the same worn handkerchief he'd given me on my 18th birthday. I never asked what it opened. He only said, "You'll need this when you're ready to claim yourself." That day had arrived. Langford private vaults hid behind an unmarked door at the edge of the historic district, tucked between a boutique wine shop and a fading bookstore. The woman at the desk glanced at the key, checked a ledger, and led me down a quiet hallway without a single question. The air grew colder as we walked. We stopped in a narrow room lined with metal drawers. Box 17, she said, sliding it open. I waited until the door shut behind her. Then I reached in. A black, fireproof folder lay inside, cool and smooth. I opened it carefully. The first page was a certified cashier's check, the bank seal pressed into the paper. $38 million addressed to me. Behind it, notarized land deeds, full ownership of the family estates and the land underneath. Then stock certificates. For Wynn Carroll Holdings, every voting share, every executive authority, my name inked across the lines. At the bottom sat a flash drive in a velvet pouch. Back in my apartment, I plugged it in and clicked the single video file. Grandpa's face filled the screen, older than I remembered, sitting in the sunroom with light spilling over his shoulder. "If you're seeing this, Sarah," he said, "then they did what I feared. They tried to erase you." His voice was slow and clear. "You were always the quiet one. The one who saw everything, felt too much, asked for nothing. That's why they feared you. That's why I trusted you." He leaned closer. "This isn't just money, it's memory, it's legacy. And if they try to burn yours down, this is how you come back." The screen went black. I knew my next move. I found the envelope taped just under my peephole. Plain white, no stamp, no name. One line in neat block letters. "They didn't burn. The real check." Look in box array at Langford Security. No signature, no hint of who left it. Just the quiet of the hallway. I sat for a while staring at it. Then I opened my laptop. Langford had more than one vault site. Box array wasn't on the public list, but I knew the name. Grandpa once joked it was where they hid the real bones. I logged into the estate email created during the trust transfer and found a message I'd missed. Blank subject. One sentence. "They're not after the money. They're after the signature." Attached were 2 documents, an unsigned asset transfer form for Win Carroll Holdings, and a second one signed, with my name. But the signature wasn't mine. They were selling the company. I opened the company's internal dashboard, the access Grandpa had set up for me months ago. There it was, transactions, proposals, reassignment of assets. Every move rubber-stamped under my name while, on paper, I was dead. I wasn't just disinherited. I was a loophole, a silence they could use. They thought they'd taken everything, but arrogance leaves footprints. I clicked another folder on Grandpa's drive, Charleston Land Archives. My name sat under every plot. I knew where I was going next. The lease listed the holder as W.M. Trill, a name Grandpa used for fishing licenses and rare record auctions. "A joke," he said. "Win Merrick, like a flower that keeps growing where it shouldn't." I remembered that as I drove past the city limits through rusted fields and empty lots until I pulled up to a row of storage units and found 19B. The lock opened with the brass key from the velvet pouch. The air inside was stale, not untouched. A metal shelf lined the back wall. In the center sat a black fireproof briefcase. Inside a manila folder lay my original birth certificate, not the updated one with my stepfather's surname. This one carried only my name, Serafina Lete Win. No hyphen, no edits. Next were 12 letters in Grandpa's hand. Most were dated, close to big family moments. My college graduation, my parents' vow renewal, the Christmas I spent alone. He'd written them but never mailed them. One line appeared again and again. "They won't erase you. Not while I'm still standing." Beneath the letters was a notarized will, dated after the day I was supposedly declared dead. His signature was strong and sure. In it, I was the sole beneficiary. Not Kalaya, not Everett, or Lete, me. And beneath that lay the deed. Win Estate, Charleston. SC owner, Serafina Lete Win. My fingers pressed the raised seal. I hadn't just inherited a house. I had inherited the ground under their power. And they had no idea. I sat on a cracked plastic chair near the door, clutching the folder to my chest, feeling the shape of my own name for the first time in years. I wasn't a ghost, and they didn't know I was already walking back through the door they tried to lock. Sylvia Orton didn't waste words when I handed her the briefcase. She opened it, scanned everything, and said, "We'll move fast." No awe, just certainty, like she'd seen too many families try the same tricks. We filed the challenge within 48 hours. The hearing was set for Monday. The courthouse smelled like waxed floors and old decisions. I wore black, not for mourning, but because armor doesn't always clang. My parents arrived together, with a young lawyer in a too-tight suit and a too-loose smirk. Kalia came behind them, glossed lips, phone in hand. No one looked at me. Judge Kinley took the bench, short on patience, shorter on theatrics. When our case was called, he nodded at Sylvia. She rose, calm and precise. "We're here to contest the execution of the estate of Merrick Wynn on grounds of forgery, coercion, and identity suppression." The other attorney rolled his eyes. "Your Honor, my clients are the documented beneficiaries. Any attempt to rewrite the will after the fact is not only unsupported, it's emotional." Sylvia tapped her tablet. "Your Honor, The deceased anticipated this. The lights dimmed, and the screen behind the bench lit up. Grandpa's face appeared. "If they're watching this," he said, "it means they tried to bury her." His voice was even. "Let the record show I changed my will knowingly under no pressure. I named Serafina sole heir because she earned it, because she endured." The room went still. Kalia's mouth opened, then closed. My mother turned, pale. My father shifted like he wanted to interrupt. Judge Kinley lifted a hand. "Enough." He looked at them, voice cold. "You didn't just try to manipulate this court. You tried to erase a person." Then he looked at me. "This court recognizes Serafina Wynne as the sole legal heir to the estate of Merrick Wynne. The respondent's assets are frozen pending further investigation." I exhaled. Not relief, exactly. Release. The damage was real. Now came the reckoning. Kalia texted twice before I answered. First, please. Second, longer. Can we talk? Just us. Like before. I agreed to meet at a cafe near the courthouse. Neutral. Ground. No history inside it. She was already there, stirring a coffee she hadn't touched. Her smile shook when she saw me. "I didn't know," she blurted before I sat. "About the death certificate, about the will. They told me it was a routine form. I just signed where Dad told me to." I said nothing. I set my phone on the table, screen dark, recording. "I swear, Sarah, I didn't mean for any of this. I didn't know they'd go that far." Her voice cracked. "I thought we were just protecting what was ours." "What was yours?" I said. She flinched. "I mean, I didn't think you'd fight. You always left." That part had been true. But I wasn't the girl who left anymore. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I was scared. If I didn't go along, they'd cut me out too." I watched her wipe away a tear with the sleeve of her expensive coat. It wasn't that I didn't believe she felt sorry. I just didn't care. I gave her silence. Then I stood, pocketed my phone, and walked out. Her voice followed me halfway across the cafe. I didn't turn. Outside, the air smelled like far-off rain. I pulled my coat close and walked, not toward the past, and not toward revenge. Forward. Waiting in my inbox was the last document Grandpa had arranged. The subject was clear: transfer of deed, effective upon confirmation. The courthouse steps were quieter than I expected. No cameras, no scene. Just the steady click of my boots on old concrete. In my hand was the deed, my name in bold beneath the county seal. No more doubt, no more pretending. I paused on the last step and turned back toward the building where I had fought so long just to be heard. I lifted the deed and took a single photo. No smile, just stillness. I typed a simple caption. They tried to burn the legacy. I inherited the foundation. Then I turned off my phone and slipped it into my bag. No victory dance, no announcement, no need. I walked 5 blocks in quiet to the small brick studio I'd closed on 2 days earlier. Tall windows, scuffed floors, tucked between a florist and a forgotten laundromat. It wasn't much yet, but it was mine. I unlocked the door, stepped inside, and opened the envelope from the vault marked "Start Here." Inside were 3 things: a hand-drawn sketch of the studio's layout, a business license application half-filled in Grandpa's handwriting, and a letter with 4 words underlined. Make something they can't erase. I sat cross-legged on the dusty floor, the weight of everything I'd lost and everything I'd reclaimed settling like dust after a storm. This wasn't revenge. It wasn't even justice. It was the beginning, and I was ready.